Well, hello, and welcome to the MillVet Podcast. Your podcast hosts are Brendan Aronson, Tim Shaw, and Beau Higgins. We are military veterans, entrepreneurs, and investors. But most importantly, we strive to empower military service members, veterans, and their families. We believe that all veterans deserve a career that fires them up, a career in which you can learn, you can earn, and you can build a world class network. On this podcast, we interview civilian and military veteran leaders who are incredible founders, writers, thinkers, and investors. My primary goal is to inspire you to achieve great things. Let's dive into today's episode. Well, hello, and welcome to another edition of the MillVet Podcast. I'm your host, Beau Higgins, and I have the pleasure today to be joined by Demi Oloyede, and can't wait to get into her story. First, though, for those that may not be familiar with the MillVet is a company that provides an executive pathway for veterans to get into primarily venture capital and private equity backed roles. If you're interested in learning more, we'd love to check out the MillVet website, check out our podcast, get on our newsletter to learn more about it. But we also like to tell stories of fellow veterans and fellow entrepreneurs. And today we have someone that is both a current active duty veteran or currently serving veteran and entrepreneur that fills both those roles. So Demi, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Beau. It feels good to be here.
That's awesome. I'd love to start off with just kind of tell us a little bit about, I know you're doing a lot of things, but what are you doing now? And then we'll talk a little more about how you got to here. But what are you doing now?
Oh my, I'm doing so many things. Like I feel like I wear so many hats every day. It's really hard to answer the question of what I'm doing now. But I guess in a nutshell, I'm building a PropTech company called Limpiar, and we're helping commercial facility managers automate their maintenance services, pretty much. So we're building the future of autonomous properties in a nutshell.
All right. I'm not sure exactly what that means, but we'll talk about it some more. I'm a Marine. I'm a little slow sometimes, but I look forward to hearing of how you got to that point, and what that really means, and excited to hear more about that. But let's turn things back to the beginning here. And obviously, I know you are a member of the Navy, but would love to kind of hear about your journey even before that, because you have a fascinating story of your background of coming to the United States and joining the Navy. So, again, do you mind just kind of telling a little bit about your story of getting to the States and just kind of how that all happened and how that leads you to maybe join the Navy as well?
Of course, definitely. So I moved to the U.S. about 8 years ago, and I initially came here for college. So I was an F1 student visa, international student, and before coming to the U.S., I'd always dreamt of being here. My dad was a collector for Time magazines, National Geographic, Forbes, The Economist. So I was like constantly reading all this like American propaganda growing up. So I knew that somehow it was going to end up here. I didn't know like how it was going to happen, but I knew that I wanted to be in the US. So I moved over. I was going to college at the time. I was studying business. And then sometime in between there, I got my green card. So I became a permanent resident. And I was working at the time for a tech company. And I just really felt, before I did this, so my grandfather was in the military in Nigeria. So he served in the army. He was a major general up until when he passed. And so when he passed away, nobody in my family had joined the military or kind of taking that step. And I was like, I feel like I kind of want to do this. But also at the back end of this, I was really moved by service, where it's like I've come to this country and I've done so much and I achieved so much. At this time, I was like 21. Like I've achieved so much because of the opportunities that exist in the US and people have, made possible. And I really want to do something to give back to that. And so I started looking at ways, and I was telling my mom, we joked about this, and I was like, I'm going to join the military. And in a sense, it's like I'm killing two birds with one stone. I'm paying this back to the country, but I'm also like, paying homage to my grandfather and like being in military service as well. And she joked and she starts laughing because for everyone who knows me, like I'm a huge joker, and I'm not the most like when people think military, especially like embodying who my grandfather was, he's like really strict, really like no nonsense type of guy, very crisp. And that is not me. And so they laugh because like, yeah, it's never like, you're never going to do it. And so my at first I wanted to enroll in the Air Force because everyone knows like the Air Force is like notorious for being like the easiest branch of the military. So I was like, if I do this, like I need a smooth ride. Like I need like something like easy and something that suits me. Plus I had a tech background, so it was like, okay, like it kind of makes sense as well. And so my Air Force recruiter ghosted me. He didn't respond. I went to the Air Force office, nobody. And one day I went down there and there was a Navy recruiter. And he said, the Navy actually is like the largest branch of the military. We've also had like 4 or 5 presidents have been like from the Navy. The Marines report to us too. Like we're like the coolest branch. So I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I want to be in the coolest branch of the military. And the problem is I can't swim. And he's like, you can't. Like, yeah, I can't swim. And he's like, okay, well, we'll teach you how to swim. Like, join the Navy. We'll teach you how to swim. That is honestly, the swimming story is like a separate story on its own. But I was like, oh, okay, you can't really be that hard. So I ended up enlisting at the time. So when I joined, I had a green card, so I wasn't a U.S. citizen. So even if I had my bachelor's and my master's degree at the time, I had to enlist in the military and I couldn't become an officer. But for me, it was mostly about service. I said, if I can serve today in whatever capacity, like sign me up, I'll take that. And then when the opportunity opens up in the future to go into a leadership pathway, then I'll take that when that door does open up. So that was really the story of me joining the military. Yes.
I love that for so many reasons. I mean, one funny about how you picked the service that you were in, and the Air Force missing their opportunity. Obviously, they messed that one up, but you got in at least in the Naval Department. Maybe not quite the right branch, but pretty close. As a Marine, I can say
Yes.
that. But all good. But more than anything, I love the fact that of your desire and goal to serve and give back in some way, shape, or form. And I think that coming from Nigeria. Obviously, you had a different upbringing, but still, have that sense of wanting to give back, to honor your family's legacy, and that's the same thing that so many veterans that we talk to, that their father, their dad, their grandfather, their uncle, someone in their family inspired them to join, and that's an international, and that's just a universal trait, right? I think we all have that mentor in our family or someone that we looked up to, and if they did that, it's a way to honor their service and sacrifice, and love to see that you came over here, and again, we're obviously doing well in college and doing that, which is an interesting choice, right? That's not the typical path, obviously, to be in college and to enlist. And were you doing that while you were in college still, like during, like how'd that work for you, like as far as like when you actually joined, and how'd that work with your college time?
Yeah, so I started the process right before graduation in college. So at the time I was working, I was actually juggling a lot. And I love working on a lot of things because my brain is like, duh, 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 duh. So it's like I like having multiple things to do. So at this time, I had just got my full-time job. I was working for a company in tech company, and I was graduating from college and I just enlisted. So this was in April. And so, I had like my finals coming up, about to like finish. And so I was going through that whole process. So once I graduated, that's when I actually went off to basic training. So I went off to basic training like 3 days after graduation. That's actually when I shipped off to basic.
Wow, not much of a graduation present for yourself, to not much time off of seeing the what. I guess you're going to see the world in a different kind of way, maybe. Not quite
Yeah.
taking the road trip out west or whatever it may be, but certainly something. It's a different way to see the world, right? In the Navy, but all good. Well,
Yeah.
so when you finished up college, did you? I mean, were you thinking about looking at the military as a long-term career, or was it just one of those things you knew up front you wanted to do for a little while and check it out? I mean, you're still in, so I don't know. I mean, you haven't even answered that question yet. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and how have you kind of navigated your military career with having, kind of, I mean, obviously a full-time startup founder kind of role as well. I mean, how have you? What's the how do you do that? It seems to be a hard thing to do.
Yeah, honestly, I love it. And I would say, like, the military gives me like the mental fortitude and the discipline that I used to show up as a startup founder. And I really love that, I do drills being in the reserves. I do drills. And another thing that I love to do is I love to volunteer my time with like military associations for like military entrepreneurs or like kind of that intersection of like both of my interests. This is something I want to do long term. I know some people are like, oh, like one contract and done. Like that's not me. Like after this, like I'm putting in a packet to transition into an officer role and hopefully take on more of a leadership role within the military, but this is something I want to do long term, and I really feel like it just feeds me like the mindset that I get from being in the military like really feeds into my sense of my entrepreneurial self. Another thing too that I notice is like I find that the military has like a really great community. Like I can tell people like I'm in the Navy and it's like, oh, I'm in this. And it's like everyone just like comes together. And that's not really something you find as often in the civilian world. So I would say like I would really miss that if I stepped off of this. But I know like for sure the military is it's a long-term thing for me. And I really plan to keep going into activities that bridge like those interests for me.
I love that, and it's great to know that. And it's great that you get such a boost or so much get juice from doing that and being in the military. And it's about the people. Again, I think that's what we all realize. The military, it is a unique community, right? And I always say it's just one of those places where it doesn't matter your background, doesn't matter your race, color, shape, gender. It's the most equal place in the U.S. in my opinion. And you find these people again. And I remember I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana, and meeting guys that were from L.A. and from New York and had different backgrounds and cult, but you that all gets stripped away with the community of the military. And I love that. I mean, in some ways, I always wish everybody could join the military. I think that's something this country could probably use in some ways, to have that one thing that you're all willing to, no matter what your background, to fight for that guy to your left or your right, that gal to your left or your right. That's something that inspires you. And obviously you get some juice from that you bring back into your civilian job as well, which is great.
Yeah, thank you.
No, I love that. Well, so did you? I mean, how'd you? I guess what kind of pivoting from your what do you do in the Navy? What's your NEC? What's your
Yeah,
rate?
so I'm a BM in the Navy.
Okay, got it. All right. For folks who don't know what that is, what do you do?
Oh, so I'm a boatswain's mate, so I work on the ship. So we do all the fixes, ping the ships. We also help with driving the boat as well, and just pretty much any work that needs to be done in the ship. So we just make sure it's top tier and it's maintained properly, crisp.
That's awesome. Is it truly the backbone of the Navy in so many ways, doing all the hard jobs behind the scenes
Very
that nobody
true.
wants to do?
Very
That's
true.
good stuff.
That is very accurate.
Very good stuff, no doubt. So obviously, you also had a passion for whether would you say the tech space in particular, was it entrepreneurial focus all through college? I mean, how did you get, or what was kind of the process of the parallel path, if you will, of getting to where you were a founder in this startup that you have, and what was that? How'd you get to there? Maybe talk a little bit about your background in tech to kind of,
Yeah.
and combined with just your background, I guess your personal experiences combined, I think, right, to kind of coalesce and have an idea. I mean, how'd that all come about?
Of course. So when I was in college, and one of the parts I leave out the story. So when I first moved to the U.S., I lived in Jersey, and I was in Jersey for a couple months. And my parents said, "We're gonna let you go to the U.S. if you agree to become a doctor." I knew I was not going to be a doctor. I'm like, that is not. I'm not going to do that. At this time, I'd barely taken one science class. Like I flunked biology. I got a C in my biology, and that's the only science class I'd ever taken. So it's like, this is not happening. So after my first semester, I started talking to my parents. I said, hey, I can't do this anymore. And they're like, no, you have to be a doctor. You're a woman. You're an immigrant. You're black. Like this is like the best path. Like everybody needs doctors. So it's like, it's guaranteed income for you after graduation. I was like, I understand that, but I'm not feeling this. And so I started to apply to schools in Texas and I didn't tell anybody. And so a couple days before school starts in Jersey, I tell everyone like, hey, I'm moving to Texas. At this time, I'd only been in the US for, I want to say a little over 3 months. So it was like Texas, like what is in Texas? Like I'd never been to Texas. Like I'd never left the state of New Jersey. I literally looked on a map. I said, I'm going there. And so everyone's like, no, Texas, like they have guns out there. They like this, they do that. And I'm like, well, we'll see. I guess I'm gonna learn how to shoot a gun if I'm going to Texas. So I basically, everyone's opposed to this, but I got on my flight. I remember it was Southwest. I booked that because that's what I could afford at the time since there was no support for me to go to Texas. And so I got to Texas and then I realized like, oh my God, it's real out here. Like I have to support myself. I have to get a job. International student still, I couldn't get a full-time job. I could get a job on campus, but you're only allowed to work 20 hours a week, so part-time, but they didn't even have up to 20 hours available. So they had 3 hours every week. So I was working 6 hours in like 2 weeks.
Mm.
And I was working like seven. I was making minimum wage, just like 7.25 at the time. I was barely making any money. I was like, okay, I need like to turn this around pretty quickly. So I, out of necessity, started my own small gig. So I reached out to my professors that had kids and I said, hey, I can babysit for you guys, $20 an hour. And I started handing out flyers, talking to them. And that's how I started babysitting. And then from babysitting, I realized like a lot of times when I babysat, like their homes were messy. And I was like, okay, I can clean the homes as well alongside babysitting. And so I started earning more by like babysitting and cleaning the homes. And I started to like establish a clientele. And with that, I bought my first car. And so I was actually mobile. One of the things I did not understand moving to Texas is that it's not like the transportation system sucks. So you have to drive and you have to own a vehicle, which is different from Jersey and New York. And so I did that. And then I started going to Walmart, handing out flyers, and the business got bigger. I recruited two other people that started cleaning with me and started doing these things with me. And then I saved enough money. I started doing fulfillment goods. So like Amazon return goods. I started reselling that on campus to students and I started selling those on eBay. Started selling computers, so it kind of the business got bigger and I was actually making money. I was like, okay, this is great. So me like diving into entrepreneurship for me, even if it's something I'd always wanted to do, was more, when it happened, it was more of like a necessity. Like I did that out of necessity. On the tech side, I saw how the world was moving, where it's like, hey, technology is the future. Even though I was doing a business degree, I started to do courses online around like SQL courses, Python courses, so I could actually understand how these technologies worked. And I was like, okay, after I graduated from college, my family's main concern was that I would study business and work as a bank teller and Uber driver. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's like when you pay so much money to go to college, like you don't want that to be like the end result, right? So I said, I am not going to prove these guys right. Like I am going to get a job that makes sense. And so my first job, even I got this job before I graduated college and I was making over $100,000. And so when I reached out to my parents. At this time, I was 19. I was 19, 20. And so I was like, hey, I just got this offer and it's for $105,000. And I was like, oh my God, really? 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 It's like, yeah. It's like, I didn't have to study medicine to do this. Like, I didn't have to become a doctor to actually make it. So yeah, that was really the trajectory and how I stumbled into this world. And I think that where I am right now is just a blend of those worlds where it's like there's that technology aspect, which is an industry I've worked in. There's also the aspect of like maintenance, which kind of goes back into like my job as like a BM anyways. And also like there's the aspect of like, the vendor management for facility operations, which goes into what I was doing in college by like cleaning and doing all these like smaller jobs to put myself through college. So really this company in a sense is like a roundup of like all the experiences and skills that I've had. I just threw it into a startup. I'm like, okay, let's see where this takes us. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I love too, though, again, part of this was from necessity just to survive. and make some money to live. But you could have stopped it. I mean, you probably could have survived with just doing the babysitting or just maybe the maid stuff, and you added the selling. Like, you never stopped, But I love that piece of your personality. It's like, okay, but now I've done this, I'm going to try something more. I'm going to go do this next thing. I'm going to do this next thing, And I think that's that part of never being complacent, always looking for the next opportunity and and being willing to take that next opportunity. Because a lot of people have the ideas, and a lot of people talk about want to do these things, but I think the thing that separates the entrepreneurs really from others is they're not afraid to try, which means they're probably not afraid to fail. Now, again, hopefully you won't fail, but the reality is most entrepreneurs do fail, or at some point in time they do fail. It's not easy,
Mhm.
but just that willingness to put yourself out there and give it a shot, and then believing in yourself, right? And that's what it's so much of it is about. Hey, if I believe in myself, I believe I can do this. I believe there's not going to be an obstacle that I'm going to hit that I can't overcome based on my background and my belief in me. I'm going to hit a door, but I'm going to find another way around it. I'm going to go over it, under it, whatever it takes. I'm sure you've had a lot of that in this process, obviously, and continue to grow. And again, to coalesce all these things into what you're doing now. And let's just maybe move into that. What talk a little bit more about what you're doing now and the company itself, and what it does, and again, and how it kind of feeds from all the pieces and parts of your background.
Yeah, definitely. I would say, like, just to your point, I think that a lot of times what really separates people and people that I've met is execution. Like, even when I talk about being in the military, like, I've met so many people that say, oh my God, like, I almost joined. I wanted to join. I almost like enlist, but it's like you never executed on, like,
Yep.
what you wanted to do. And it's like, I know people that are like, oh my God, I have all these ideas of like this technology or like this business. I could do this, I could do that, but it's like you don't execute. And if you don't execute, then it's as good as not even having the idea or the desire in the first place. So going back into the business and where we are right now. So essentially what our platform does is it allows commercial property managers to automate their maintenance and their cleaning needs. So just kind of dumbing this down, let's say you're a commercial property manager, a facility manager, you probably operate or manage maybe 3, 4 locations. Our platform provides a dashboard where you can easily schedule, you can assign, you can see budgeting for services that get rolled out across those different facilities. And some of those services are maintenance services, cleaning services. If an equipment goes down, for instance, you need someone out there to fix that. That's essentially what our platform is built for.
Sounds pretty good. I know. I mean, as a guy that spent 7 years at Amazon, we always had like something was going wrong. You need to get this light fixed or this AV thing. I'm sure it's somehow like online you can ask for those services, which is hugely important because I can only imagine the complexity of it too, of making that happen and getting it on time. So good for you. That's great stuff to be able to have figured it out and worked that. I mean, how do you get the word out about what you're doing, or what would you want folks to know about what you're providing? Where are you? Are you located? Is this service that can be utilized nationwide? You can download it and utilize it, or okay,
Yeah.
let me talk a little more about that. Yeah, yeah.
So we have a web platform and we have a mobile platform. So it is something that can be downloaded and utilized across the country. So we don't need to be in a specific location to roll this out. We also have a vendor network. Right now we have a network of over 10,000 vendors through the platform across all these different facility services. And all of that is also like across the US. So we're pretty widespread in where we can offer service. I wouldn't say like our 3 key markets or big markets for us is going to be Texas, Oklahoma, and Louisiana, mostly because like I'm in Texas. So it's like I've kind of like curated most of a network around here. But we do have customers that are in California. We have customers in Minnesota, in New Jersey, and pretty much in other states as well.
That's what, as a New Orleans native, I can appreciate the fact that you're in Louisiana. So that's good stuff for me. I'm happy to share the word. My friends in Louisiana. That's great. That's great. Yeah, and how did you? I mean, I guess I always love to hear the story too of did you fund this on your own? Did you have to get investment, and just the challenges of getting to where it is today? Because a lot of times one of the hardest things, you have a great idea, you have the passion and drive, but sometimes the money part can be a challenge. Someone to get someone to believe in your idea as much as you believe in your idea. And how did you work through that kind of
Yeah.
chaos?
Of course. So when I first started this, and I started this last year actually. And so when I first started this, the idea was actually to be like an on-demand platform for cleaning. So like Uber for cleaning for residential homes, right? And when we first ran this business model, I was running ads. Very high customer acquisition costs. And this was all self funded. Like I left my full time job managing a team of 6 people in a really great tech company that had really great benefits. And I moved to Mexico for 2 months to figure out what I wanted to do. And so it was really a lot. I was like, I'm burning my personal 401k savings, all of that, my bonuses, like I'm burning so bad. And so from that came the necessity of we need to figure out a business model that works because this business model is too expensive to keep trying over and over and failing. And once I figured out, like, hey, acquisition costs here are too much, like we have to pivot quickly, we turned our face to the commercial market, and within the commercial market I had to discover, it's a whole ball game now. It's B2B. I had to discover what are good marketing channels for us. Right now we run email marketing, we do LinkedIn marketing, we also do cold calls, which has been like a really great source for us. So I had to change to that direction. And so once we move to that direction, everything so far, to answer your question, everything so far has been self-funded. I've done accelerators, I've done pitch competitions as well, and then we've gotten some money from those accelerators and those pitch competitions in form of grants. But pretty much everything else has been self-funded.
Well, good for you. It is not easy to keep those things going, and I think or if not every, the vast majority of founders that I have talked to, at some point, they said, "I had to go all in with everything I had. I had my 401k, and I had my house in there. I had it's just like if you believe in yourself, you're making that big bet, but you have to do it at some point to get over that hump, and then hopefully, if things go as they seem to be going well for you, you find that you hit some point where it starts to work out more and more. But that's great stuff. I love that. If you, I guess, one question I always like to ask, and again, our audience being primarily veterans, and a lot of them that are transitioning, or some that are still in, certainly that want to be entrepreneurs, want to be somehow involved in the private equity venture capital space. What were things like lessons learned that you have kind of come up with in starting your own business? What would you do differently if you could now to maybe save yourself some time, if anything? Like what would you do differently or recommend to anyone that's getting ready to start their own business? I mean,
Of
maybe
course.
even whether it's good or bad things to kind of
Yeah.
recommend to folks. Yeah.
Definitely. I would say, like, if you're getting ready to start your business, make sure you pre-sell your idea, or at least test it in like a small sense, right? One of the things, I think, I'm a perfectionist, and a lot of people are perfectionists, but they don't realize that they are, right? And that's something that's going to come back and bite you in the back,
Hmm.
because people feel like to go to market, you have to have the perfect product, right? It has to look the way Apple looks. It has to look the way like the Amazon store looks today. It's taken Amazon like 2 decades to get to where
Hmm.
they are, and they're still iterating, right? And it's taking Apple more to get to where they are, and they're still iterating. If you're launching something, it doesn't have to be picture perfect. It doesn't have to be polished. It just has to work. Like, two things need to work. Like, you can launch 10 things and the other eight don't work. As long as two work, you're good to get started and you're good to get ready. Like, I feel like the world is so simplified now, where it's like you don't need a lot of money to like launch and make things happen. It's like we have the internet, we have AI, like low code tools, we have Chat GPT, we have all these resources that are available, and this is the perfect time to launch a business or to execute on anything, because it's so cheap to do it. Like, it's easier to do it. I mean, the competition's going to be there, but then that's also like, how do you distinguish yourself in marketing and things? But then now's the perfect time. And I struggled with this when I first launched this. I feel like I struggled with self doubt. because, I was comparing myself to like bigger players. I was comparing myself to like a CBRE or like, all these like really big guys that been here in the market since before I was born. It's like, I'm never going to match up to them when I first start. Right. So it's like, think about your business as a child. And it's like, okay, when a child is born, like, it's still like there's a lot of things that need to be like fed to get it to compete. So kind of think through like those type of like analogies as you're working through this. And execution is a big deal. You can think through everything, but your ability to actually execute, follow through with the mission is going to be key. One of the things that we do at Limpiar is I literally all our teams or departments have like code names. So we do everything like it's mission impossible. So it's like when my sales team like books a call, we're like, "Oh, target identified." And so it's like we kind of like gamify everything we do. So it's fun. So like every day I wake up and like I go to work and I feel like I'm a secret agent. But then it makes it fun because, and that's the thing, is like I feel like building a business should be fun. Starting something and trying something new should be fun, and just find ways to like make things fun. When you make something fun, you're gonna want to do it every day. You're gonna want to do more. But when you start making it complex and not fun, you're gonna be like, oh my god, I don't want to do this today. So I would say like make it fun. Like be a secret agent. Like I wake up and I clock into work and I see like, oh, infiltration or target acquired, and I'm like, yes, target acquired for real. So it's like,
I love it. As an intelligence officer for the Marine Corps, I can appreciate the secret agent context, and I love the fact of idea of make it fun. I mean, hopefully you're doing this with people that are your friends, and again, you want teammates to be in this with you together, because when it gets to be drudgery, at some point you're like, why are we doing this? Why? I mean, if we're banging out, it has to be something you believe in. It
yeah,
has to be fun. And if you can get that and turn it into, I say a game, I mean, it's a real world game, but I mean, make
it
it that
is.
way. That
It
is
is.
fantastic. That is
It really
fantastic.
is. And it's
I
like
love that.
running a startup is already hard. Like we don't have like we're money money's low, so it's like, hey, let's at least have fun while we're at it. So yeah.
Yep.
Let's go.
Yep. We know it's really hard. Let's try to make it as fun as we can be. So I love that approach.
Exactly.
It's like the military. I mean, there's things that are hard, but you make it as fun as you can get, because, do the best at what you got to do, even though it may not be the funnest thing to do, I guess, in some
Mhm.
ways. So that's great. Well, it's awesome that to see how you've been able to, you said, balance the naval career, which is awesome, and wanting to continue that with that entrepreneurial piece and excitement for what you've done to really take all your, I said, your whole path and growth and learning into Limpiar. What advice or anything, and as we kind of get ready to close down, what do you want to share with the audience of things they should know, things that you're important to you? You're still involved in the veteran community and helping other veterans, obviously. So anything you want to share as far as, words of advice for those veterans out there to be watching the podcast?
Yeah, I would say like, words of advice is definitely like believing in yourself. I would also say like if you market yourself as a veteran, it opens a lot of doors as well, right? And I feel like some people, from what I've heard, they, leave the military and like, I don't want anybody to know I was ever in the military. They feel like because they don't have, civilian experience or other experience, it comes as like a, like a down tone for them. But I would say like marketing yourself as a veteran and your experience as a veteran is very, very desirable and transferable into the real world. And I don't see a lot of people milk that enough. So I would definitely say like milk it.
Milk it. Well, it's an amazing network, and I see it all the time with veterans. More than anything, I think a lot of them, not even, they don't know how to network, or they think they don't know how to network. And they feel like networking is a dirty word or something. And it's like, well, what do you think you did in the military? If you needed to get, your orders, or needed to get this gear, you wanted to get better chow, you found a guy and you made it happen. That's networking. But somehow in the civilian world, it's like, oh, I can't do that. It's not. I'm like, no, it's just figuring stuff out and asking a buddy and having that network, and you give a little back when they ask for you, and you give some when somehow I think veterans have to overcome that fear of asking for help in some
Mhm.
ways too, right? 'Cause I think we do sometimes as veterans get this whole complex. Oh, if we ask for help, we're broken, or we're, like, no, it's okay to ask for help, whether in the military or outside the military. And when you
Yes.
ask for help, you can probably get more than you ever wanted. But I think we do get sometimes programmed in the military to say, I ask for help, people are going to say there's something wrong with you, and then, you're not going to get able to deploy or whatever it might be. Like, no, it's
Yeah.
just that mindset needs to be overcome to be successful. And you've clearly done that, which is great. And
Yeah.
again, I can't wait to see what the future holds, both in your naval career and in your entrepreneurial career. I'm sure Limpiar is one of many things in the future, and wish you great success in the future. And really
Thank
was a
you.
pleasure to have you on the show today. So thank you, Demi, for being on here with us today.
Of course. Of course. Thank you so much, Bo. I appreciate
And
it.
hope our paths cross soon. Thanks again. Out
Of
here.
course. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode. For more content, follow us on Instagram at TheMilVet or on LinkedIn. Join us at an upcoming event or learn more on our website, TheMilVet.org. Feel free to email us directly at leadership@TheMilVet.org. Thank you so much and take care.